Good evening. Well, it's evening for me. Whenever you watch this, could be morning, afternoon. Welcome to our little series, our support system for our post election challenges. I'm Reverend Alicia Leslie from Spirit of Unity Church. And today I'd like to talk about lessons from the Titanic. Now, I was thinking that, oh yeah, let's have fun with it, but who can have fun with a major tragedy? But we can learn from it. I actually had to take some notes too because I'm kind of in a rush. So I have to be in and out. Was the settings in my camera. I changed them, and the effect is clearer picture. Isn't that amazing? Well, let's keep that in mind in our lives. Sometimes we're looking for a cause and we're looking for the wrong thing. Now, if I asked you what happened to the Titanic in 1912, and you would say it hit an iceberg and it sank. And that would be true. Many people died because of it. Yet, it was much more than that. In the aftermath of the election, we have people pointing fingers. It was this one's fault. It was that one's fault. It was another one's fault. But the fault, first of all, let's try to take fault out of it and look at cause, because when we look at cause rather than fault, we can see the effect, and then we can change the cause, and then we can do things differently. That is one of the five basic principles of the unity teaching, is the law. It's also called the law of mind action, where it says the thoughts we hold in mind will be will manifest of their kind. Simply put, if you're in a crabby mood and you walk around all day and you're just holding crabby thoughts, and everyone you run into seems to annoy you, that is the thought that you're holding in your mind that's manifesting. In our current political situation, we are doing a lot of catastrophizing, and that is just looking at the worst possible outcomes. And it's not a bad thing to consider because, if you don't know, you can't fix. On the other hand, the more we explore causes, we can change the effects. So if we just take a quick look, first of all, there were not enough lifeboats on board. They were cocky. It was the unsinkable Titanic. Did you ever get cocky thinking you had all the answers only to find out no, you didn't? So they didn't either want to put the money into more lifeboats, or just let's get this ship, sailing. Also, the rivets that were holding the ship together were not the best. They were not that what they should have spent on them. They did not. But wait, there's more. The captain the ship is speeding. It was going too fast. And one of the reasons it went too fast was kind of pathetic. It was because of the ego of the captain, who wanted to beat the record of the Olympia going through that same passage. It's pretty pathetic, isn't it? Now, another reason that it sank is an iceberg warning that the wire room received. The signal person ignored it. He didn't take it seriously. That's another thing. How often do we not take things seriously? Let me see what it says. Okay, they may have taken a fatal wrong turn, and they're not sure of that, but they say that's a possibility. And the builders were cutting costs. Also, there were mirages and a misty horizon, so it made it more difficult to see. So let's see what lessons we can. Oh, another one. Biggie. The binoculars were locked up. I mean, I think that ship was probably pretty faded. They didn't even have binoculars for the spotters to go out wrong. The wireless operator dismissed a warning. How many times have we dismissed warnings? Maybe it's snowing and you feel like, but I got to get where I want to go, so I've got to drive, right? And you take a chance. I think at times I did that, and I'm thinking, what the heck was I thinking? So sorry. And I wanted to thank God that I got there and back safely, right? There's always warnings. We're told to look for them. The wire person in the wire room did not take them possibly seriously. I am so sorry. I talk too fast and I get a tickle. Okay. They might have taken a fatal wrong turn. Now, when in our lives do we take a fatal wrong turn? Well, we're not looking at our directions. Somebody looked away. Somebody might have given a misunderstood order or didn't hear correctly. Translated into our current circumstances, we tend to not investigate enough uh, in the election, in even what's happening now as we're moving forward. We have to look deeply and look for those causes and know that there's more than one. Um, so if that's misinformation and disinformation in our current experience, kind of interesting, isn't it? You got to know what you're talking about. Titanic didn't have enough good information. Big one, money is the key. As I think of it, it's what I always say are the two false gods, money and ego, power. And in the Bible, that is money is mammon, it's stuff, it's money, it's possessions. And Baal is ego, power, self, putting self first. So that was kind of really at the core of that. You will you will be stunned if you just write it down today and try to look at things as you go through the week that are look to what's at the core of it: money and power, money and ego. Think about it. Just watch. Look at your news stories. Look at your own life. We all got to do that. Um, there were mirages and hazy horizon. We had a lot of mirages we were looking at, a lot of false information, lies, crazy stories, and instead of checking them out, we didn't. You have to have a clear look, especially when you're making an important decision. As we move forward, you're going to want to make your decisions carefully. The binoculars were locked up. Now we would translate that to the fact that they couldn't see what was in front of them. They needed the binoculars. Binoculars means questioning things, looking closely, looking at more than just your own eyes. Get others' opinions, get other information. Google's my best friend. So even if we're getting ourselves into a mess, we must get ourselves out of the mess. Blame prevents knowing the truth. We want to know the truth. We have to be willing to look at the truth. Now, I've heard over and over, some people are just so burned out. They're so disappointed and discouraged. And I have to tell you, kind of just have your own way. You're not trying to do it the cheap way. Big mistake. I tend to be frugal, so sometimes I do things the cheap way. So those are some tips that from lessons that we can take from the Titanic. We don't want to sink our lives. We don't want to sink our country. But the minute we know, there's a story, an old Dutch story about a little boy who was walking past a retaining wall. It kept the water back. It was called a dike. And a little boy was walking by and he kept trying to tell everybody, there's a hole in the dike, there's a hole in the dike, there's a hole in the dike. And the water was coming through and nobody was paying attention to him. And eventually he put his little finger in the hole to try to save the town. You may think you only have one little finger, but you got one little finger and you got a mouth. If you're like me, it's on overdrive. So speak your truth, do your research, and know